The insult. The rain had just begun to tap on the edges of the city's concrete towers when Amira stepped into the glass lobby of Vercorp, holding a stainless steel tiffin carrier and wiping her damp forehead. Security barely looked at her. She was just the driver's daughter, after all. She walked past rows of manicured plants, marble floors gleaming beneath her sandals, and employees in tailored suits whispering into headsets. This was a world she didn't belong to, and she never wanted to. She was only here for her father. "Fourth floor," the receptionist said without looking up. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped into the sharp scent of cologne and tension. A conference room full of men in navy suits stood in front of a digital model of a new skyscraper. In the center of them, tall and too sure of himself, was Raunak Veer. Sharp jaw, sharper tongue. "Lunch delivery?" he asked, looking her up and down. Amira held the tiffin closer to her chest. "For Mr. Sheikh, the driver. He left his—" Raunak interrupted, turning to his team with a laugh. "See, this is the problem. These people sneak into glass buildings and suddenly think they belong." The men chuckled. One tried not to. Amira's ears burned, but she said nothing. She placed the lunchbox gently on the side table near the pantry. Before she could turn to leave, she heard one more jab from him. "Maybe next time she'll bring a proposal too, since everyone's pretending to be important." The laughter echoed. Her father stood nearby, face bowed in shame. Amira didn't speak. Not to Raunak, not even to her father on the way home. She looked out of the car window, her fingers digging into her skirt, her heart pounding with something cold and unfamiliar. That night, in their tiny flat above a bakery, Amira sat in front of her laptop. Her inbox had 3 unread emails. One was from a contact in Singapore, confirming the funding for her pilot housing project. Another was from the university offering her a research fellowship. And the last was a message from Mr. Parekh, her late mentor's assistant, with final legal documents transferring ownership of his silent firm to her name. She read them twice. Then she looked at her reflection in the window, a girl with no makeup, wearing a threadbare shirt, hair tied loosely back, and smiled. Not the kind of smile that forgives, the kind that waits. The quiet fire. The airport lounge in Singapore buzzed with soft announcements and quiet urgency. Amira adjusted her scarf and stared out at the runway. Her journey had begun, not one of escape, but transformation. Singapore was nothing like Delhi, sleek, fast-paced, yet cleaner and more structured. A place where she could build without being constantly reminded of her origins. Within months, she blended into the city's tech and innovation scene, drawing attention not with wealth or charm, but with ideas. Her focus? Affordable, eco-smart housing. Amira lived modestly in a shared apartment and spent long nights at the co-working spaces. She used every dollar of her late mentor, Mr. Parekh's investment fund, wisely, not to build luxury, but to design hope. She partnered with architects, engineers, and green startups. Her first project, Nilangan, a self-sustainable urban housing prototype, received silent attention from global investors. She never broadcasted her achievements. She had learned early that loud voices often came with empty content. She let her work speak, and in the background, Vercorp, Raunak's empire, began to tremble. It started with leaked documents about unsafe construction, then regulatory strikes. Finally, clients began pulling out. Amira saw the headlines but said nothing. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she poured her energy into her second project, one aimed at retrofitting broken buildings, the exact kind Raunak's firm was being criticized for. Her approach wasn't just revenge, it was redirection. One night, at an international expo in Dubai, her company received a surprise inquiry, a possible investment opportunity from a Delhi-based conglomerate in distress. Vercorp. Amira's assistant asked if she wanted to consider it. She smiled slightly. "Let's schedule a visit," she said. "But don't tell them who owns the firm." The driver's daughter was coming back, not to beg, but to build. Collapse and come back. Inside the once glittering office of Vercorp, the atmosphere had shifted. The once bustling 20th floor was now quiet, and Raunak Veer stared at a financial report like it was written in another language. Another investor. "Pulled out," said Mitali, his sharp and overworked CFO. "And we're getting pressure from the board. If we don't secure outside capital soon, we're looking at mass layoffs." Raunak leaned back, his confidence dulled but not dead. "So, who's left?" She handed him a folder. "A firm from Singapore, Blue Arc Holdings, young but gaining traction. They focus on the exact sustainable tech we failed to implement. They want to meet next week." He flipped through the summary, unimpressed at first, until he saw the name of the founder. It just said, AS Enterprises. No face. No background. Just results. Raunak didn't know it yet, but the woman walking through those glass doors next week was the same girl he mocked for being born on the wrong side of a car door. And she wasn't here to impress him. She was here to save or sever what he thought was untouchable. The return, Amira stepped out of the elevator in a tailored ivory kurta layered with a crisp blazer. No heels, no dramatic makeover. Just presence. Raunak's eyes widened the moment she entered the boardroom. He stood slowly. "You..." She didn't flinch. "Ms. Sheikh," she said, extending a hand. "CEO of Blue Arc Holdings." There was silence. The same board members who once ignored her father at parking lots were now pulling out chairs, asking her questions, and nodding at her ideas. She presented a precise strategy to recover the company. Downsizing luxury projects, investing in modular housing, rebranding with transparency. She spoke like someone who had built from dust. Raunak watched her, speechless. This was no act of revenge. It was leadership. After the meeting, he approached her. "You came back like this?" he asked, still processing it. "I came back for the city. Not for you," she said coolly. "But if you're willing to rebuild the right way, I'll help." There was no sarcasm in her voice, no grudge. That shook him more than any insult would have. That night, as he stood on the balcony of his penthouse, Raunak found himself thinking of her, not just the woman she had become, but the one he never saw in the first place. The shift months passed. Vercorp began to change, not because of press releases, but because of actual action. Sustainability took the lead. Corrupt departments were shut down, workers got health coverage. And Raunak? He attended meetings. Without ego, listened more than he spoke, and walked through construction sites with a notebook instead of sunglasses. Amira was still cautious around him. She kept things professional but firm. She led teams, visited sites, mentored interns, and even returned to her old neighborhood to fund housing improvements, anonymously. One rainy evening, after a long inspection drive, their car broke down near the old district where they first met. They waited in silence as a mechanic worked nearby. Raunak looked at her, the shadows softening his face. "I misjudged you," he said finally. "I thought power was about having the tallest tower in the city, but maybe it's about not needing one at all." Amira didn't reply at first. Then she said, "Some of us grow up knowing no one will save us, so we become the ones who do." He smiled. Not the kind that flirts, but the kind that understands. As the rain slowed, Amira looked out the window and said, "If this partnership ever turns into something else, it'll have to be earned." Raunak nodded. "Then I hope I get the chance to try." And for the first time, she didn't say no. Just, "We'll see."